there was some research I was reading a while ago. I can't remember who produced it. I have to try and find it, but it was basically saying that offices should be made using exposed timber because we've had such an affinity with timber as a material because we've used it with our hands for centuries that actually it calms us down and de-stresses. So if you're building an office, you should be using timber that's clear and it's visible.
Get rid of all the plastic.
Help make a less stressful.
I think it was possibly BRE that did that work, and it's the biophilic office work. They call it fancy term, biophilic. I know, and to be honest, the way you described it is what it's about. It doesn't have to have a fancy term because you only have to see a child pick up something made out of wood. It's built in. It's in the DNA, isn't it? I mean, because it's since mankind developed that we use the material for so much. It's built in.
It's the only completely natural building material I can think of. I might be wrong, but I can't think of anything else which is completely, well, there's the stone, I suppose, but...
It's largely and used in its pure. I mean, I guess a slate that's split, used in its purest state. But tiles are obviously reconstituted on the whole. Thatch might be considered one, but in terms of.
It's not something you can build a large structure with, though. Really, a lot of these things are they. Timber's the only one, the most versatile of them all. It's a really versatile one.
Yeah.
Well, it's in your log burner, it's in the fireplace surround, it's in the timbers in the roof above the fireplace, it's in the beams, it's around the window, it's in the floor, it's in the skirting board, and it's in the pencil you're holding and the paper that you're writing on. I mean, it's everywhere, it's everything.
Exactly, yeah. It is, it's incredible, really. I mean, I was saying earlier as well, again, I think the happiest I've ever been was when I was working in the woods. Being outdoors all of the time really does have a huge benefit to you. And there's so much going on in this realm as well. And it's about greening our environment. And if you can put lots of trees in the city and we can make use of that timber, which typically we wouldn't have been able to, that's a big opportunity. Big opportunity. And a lot of big American cities now have forestry departments managing the city. They manage the urban trees across the whole city.
So what do you think about, I think I might know what you think about this now, but there are certain municipal organisations in this country that have tried to remove trees from their landscape because they're problems.
I can think of one.
I can think of one too. And now, okay, let's not pick on the one that you and I, and you in particular, engaged with, shall we say, but would you say that was a one-off, or do you think that's a general feeling? There's a risk that actually trees in towns and cities aren't viewed like you view them as a real positive, we agree, but that some municipal authorities still see them as a liability, a financial problem, something to they'd rather not have.
They're worried about the branches falling on somebody's head and getting sued for
being these. We're not going to agree with that, but do you think it's more ubiquitous than perhaps the odd?
I think
council?
I think it's a very common. I think it's going to be a common problem because everyone's strapped for cash. People are going to try and save money, and how do you save money? Well, you save things that you consider to be non-essential, and people will think of these things as non-essential because they don't necessarily know or understand the value of them. We do because we work in that environment, but a lot of people don't. And I think anyone that's listened to any episode of this podcast would have heard me mention one case study, which is the London Borough of Barnet. They did a natural capital assessment for the borough. So it assessed all the green infrastructure, so all the living things that they had to manage. And it was costing them 72 million over a 20-year period to maintain all of that. So immediately you think, that's the figure you see. And you think, 72 million? God, we've got to save that money. But then after the natural capital assessment was done, they found that returned 1.2 billion in public health benefit over the same time period.
They don't look at that.
So, but now we can look at that because we can assess that, and natural capital accounting is being done using the same way we account for other things with the national through the Office of National Statistics. So it's super, high level.
So there's no excuse anymore. There's no excuse. But are you still seeing people making excuses?
I think so, but again, I know there's another council which we're looking at basically saying, well, we're not going to remove everything, we just won't fund any of the management, basically. So we won't cut things down, we just won't do anything because we don't have the money. But as soon as you can make that case, it becomes much clearer. And I think, you've got to look at the way things are moving as well. So we're moving to preventative public healthcare, preventative healthcare. So we want to try and stop people getting sick before they go into hospital with the doctors. And the biggest rising health crisis really is mental health. Most of those benefits from the natural capital accounting is mental health. Physical health is also declining. There's huge evidence that if you live in a leafy, green area or street, I think it's you're 20% less likely to be obese.
Yeah.
Because you're more likely to be active, you're more willing to go outside. Retail, you're more likely to have secondary spend if the temperature of the street outside your shop doesn't increase past a certain point, and that point can be avoided if it's tree lined. So if you're a business owner, a shop owner, in theory, you will get more people spending more money because they won't want to just come in the shop and get what they want to go and leave, they'll stay and linger. And also, public money for public good, that's going to shift how we think about agricultural systems. So there's a huge changeover. And also, it's even being done early on with projects. So projects are being assessed on their benefit before they're even completed. So there was one done in, I think it's Consway Greenway in Ireland. And that was looked at, and they found that if the project led to a 2% increase in use, it would pay for itself over its lifetime. So if people, people come into use that area more, it pays for itself. It's worthwhile. So the economic
tipping point.
Exactly. Yeah, the tipping point. Exactly that. So and also we're seeing now we're working with some councils in the south. We're now on our 6th site with them now, which is all about improving the town centre, and that is being funded primarily through an organisation of local businesses. And they've gone, how do we get people into the town centre? And there's so much work being done on this. We'll talk about this in another.
It feels so logical. The way it does, it seems odd that
exactly.
This it's when you see a cost on the accounts as opposed to a future benefit, and it's hard for a short stay politician to see that, isn't it?
And the problem is we haven't had that up till now. Whereas now that can be done. It's just getting it done.
Yeah, and
the other thing I was going to say as well that's going to really drive this is town centres are collapsing.
Yeah.
Town centres are going to completely change. My company, we're a new our company's 2 years old. We've never had an office. We've just had a new staff member start today. We're still not going to have an office. We may have one in the future, but it's unlikely. And if we do, we'll only go in for a day a week. My partner works for a very, very big company. They basically said we may only go into the office once a week. So you're going to see more co-working spaces. You're going to see offices in the city centre turn into flats or vertical farms. I think that's really a very huge growth area because a lot of the infrastructure is already right where it's needed. Which means what happens to the rest of the town centre? Well, it's got to become more community focused, and we're losing our communities at a staggering rate. And we know that a lot of crime is increasing. It's because of the degradation of community and community policing. So there needs to be spaces for that. So how do you get people to rekindle this sense of community? But we have to reinvigorate town centres, and that means they have to move away from just shops. There has to be a nice environment where people can sit outside.
Stafford's a good example of just in last week, they just announced a development of 43 acres of basically swampland, which is in the middle of Stafford, which doesn't happen very often, and it's just wasteland. And they're going to turn it into, they're going to plant more trees, they're going to put footpaths in, it's going to have walkways, so people can have a really nice experience going shopping in Stafford. I think it's a great idea.
Exactly. I mean, we're doing it in Stratford upon Avon. We're doing a big project which goes north and south out of the centre of the city to try and help people, relieve a bit of pressure on the city centre, provide alternative routes into the city centre, and provide an alternative experience. So it becomes, so there's even more.
I love going to Stratford. It's like going on holiday, isn't it? Because it's such
a nice place,
buzzy sort of place, and
it is, exactly.
a lot of tourists.
I was going to say, and quite a lot of foreign people. So it feels like that. So the link I was just thinking was talking about something you mentioned earlier about value of trees for different things, and you asked, well, what might help get investment into manufacturing, and actually I'm just kind of I might be putting two and two together and getting 563 here, but the respiratory impact on health cost to the public health purse is billions. It's something that's had quite a lot of research in recent years. It's one of the biggest drains on the health budget is respiratory problems, so pollution's linked to that. So you can see policies are tackling pollution. Well, we know that trees are a natural filter for PM10, 2.5 and some other things as well. They're great filters. That's why they're in towns and cities. It's not just the shading effect and the cooling effect. It's also they do what they do in cleaning the air. They happen to just give out oxygen and taking carbon dioxide as well. But particularly on things that affect respiratory diseases, if you plant more trees and you support the tree forestry sector by offsetting some of that cost to the public health budget, you'd only need a fraction of the saving, in those billions, to put into a program of developing, to be able to, for businesses like Rogers to expand, to buy new kit, to bring in new staff, to get staff even more skills than they've got already, to be able to compete with, imports and other countries that are able to produce timber and sell it to us in vast quantities. So, there's an obvious solution, because you don't need more land to build. There's plenty of industrial areas that need investment. There's plenty of, these are highly skilled jobs as well. This is not manual labor. This is robotics. This is high skilled engineering, computer data, software. It's high tech stuff. It's quality jobs, well paid jobs, doing really worthwhile jobs. Proper careers. And I think it's not new money. You don't have to say, can I have some money, please? And it's got to come. This is already in a public health budget that is being used up on respiratory diseases that actually supporting this sector would drive down. So there's a lag time, sure. Yeah, it doesn't happen tomorrow, but it's going to happen a few years later.
There has to be a joined up strategy to address this. One of the things I look at in the urban environment, because obviously that's where I spend a lot of my time at the moment, working on projects, is street design. There's such a huge opportunity to change street design, to design it around protecting against particulates, but that in turn will create a huge area for tree planting.
Yeah.
It's the best place to plant them, really, where you're right up against the road, where you're going to intercept stuff before it gets to people. We've got footpaths in totally the wrong place in this country.
It literally is rocket science.
They shouldn't be next to the road. They should be set back.
And they literally do stop it, don't they? You got your road, you got your particulates, tree.
Yeah.
So if the tree's behind the house, too late.
Exactly.
The benefits gone.
And also you get the sound benefits. You get the less risk if a car comes off the road. It's not going to hit people. There's all those associated benefits. And even you see things like a lot of these anti-terror devices. A lot of those could be trees or planters with soil. You're not going to move a 2 or 3 ton planter with soil in it in a tree. If you drive into it with even with a lorry, you're not going to do too much. And there's a lot of there's various companies working on that with tree pits and things that are anchored so they can perform a protective barrier. So there's lots of things we can do a lot better, and we should be doing better. But at the moment, there is still this problem. But as I was saying, with the different types of timber, the way we use it, if we can tie a lot of this stuff up together and say, look, right, we're going to put these design principles in place. Broadly speaking, highways are a huge issue. Highways should really get their act together, I think, and start acting on this much quicker generally. But that's a potential for a huge amount of tree planting and increased greenery in cities. And if you can start going, right, we're getting that in place, public money for public good, agroforestry, wood pasture, as Ted would call it, those things are going to lead to a huge amount of increased volume of timber in the next 20, 30 years. But we need to start getting the infrastructure and the skills in place now. So we've got to get on it as soon as we can.
What I worry about a bit is, from my business's point of view, is the continuity of supply of the right type of timber. But
I think there should be more encouragement to bring woods into management. There's a bit of a focus on new woods, on open land, if you like, and I don't want that to take away from the importance to actively manage what we've already got. You don't need to completely start again with your existing woods. It's literally greasing a few wheels and getting in there, and there is more to be found. It's quite hard.
I think we're going to see quite a lot of the big, perhaps Scandinavian type timber groups going to try and muscle in on the British scene. Whether that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But I suppose it's good from the point of view that there could be a lot more money to spend. But it could be bad from the point of view of are they going to, pardon the phrase, rape and pillage our natural resources?
Scandinavians.
I shouldn't say that because my grandfather was Norwegian, but...
So you can say it.
Yeah, true. But, yeah.
No, it's interesting. It's going to be an interesting few years to see what happens.
Can I denumb my bum?
Yeah, of course. Well, I think we're at a good point to probably...
Are you going to keep that in?
Yeah, we can leave that in. Yeah.
My bum's definitely
it
numb.
just
no.
shows it's unscripted, you know. So yeah, but I think thanks so much for both of you coming on today, and
So-
it's been really interesting
It's
talking.
been my
about
pleasure.
these things.
Yeah, it's been great. Hasn't
Thank you for asking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really good.
And so if you guys have anything else you wanted to send us to share, any links to anything, we'll put them in the description of the video for people to check out.
Fantastic.
But thanks again, and we're going to go and have a little look around Capricorn Eco Timber and see what you guys have got and a bit of
Right.
your work.
Good.
So
Right.
Thanks for the invitation, Niall. It's been great.
you're very welcome.
Yep.